You ever wonder why a man with everything, the house, the car, the status, still gets left for someone with far less? It's not about what he gave her. It's about what he lacked, because deep down, every woman is drawn to something stronger than money, even if she never says it out loud. Here's the danger. If you don't know what she's really looking for, you'll keep investing in the wrong currency until one day you realize she's no longer yours, even while she's still in your bed. But if you've ever been ghosted, replaced, or slowly disrespected by a woman who once admired you, you need to hear this. Because I'm about to walk you through 6 things women secretly love more than money. And once you understand them, you'll never chase again. You'll attract. Before I walk you through these 6 psychological triggers that flip the female brain harder than $1 million lifestyle, do this. Hit that subscribe button if you're ready to stop chasing love and start commanding it. Drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, and tell me, what's one moment you realized money alone wasn't enough? I read every comment, because this isn't about views. It's about helping men wake up. Now let's get back to the story, because what you're about to hear might explain why she really left you. Thing number 1, emotional control. Every woman will test you, not always out of malice, but out of instinct. She wants to feel your edges, see if your center holds, and the moment she senses that your emotions own you, not the other way around, something changes. Respect fades. Safety dissolves. Desire disappears. And it doesn't matter how much you earn, how well you dress, or how much you do for her. If she doesn't feel safe in your energy, she will pull away. Quietly at first, then completely. See, emotional control isn't about being cold. It's about being anchored, grounded, unshakable. It's the difference between reacting from pain and responding from power. Here's the problem. Most men were never taught how to do this. We were taught to suppress, explode, or numb. So we become emotionally volatile, swinging between silence and outbursts. And no woman wants to walk on eggshells around the man she sleeps next to. Think back. Was there a moment where you snapped and saw the light in her eyes dim? Not from fear, but from disappointment? That's the moment she stopped trusting your frame. Because when a man can't hold himself, a woman won't feel held either. Let me tell you a truth most women will never say out loud. Her tantrum isn't the real test. Your reaction is. She's not testing to see if she can break you. She's testing to see if you break yourself. And when you pass that test, when you stay calm, composed, centered, something shifts in her. She softens, she trusts, she leans in. But when you fail, she shrinks, she guards. She starts choosing silence over honesty, distance over affection. You don't have to explode to fail the test. Sometimes your silence is just as damaging when it comes from shutdown, not strength. When your silence is cold, punishing, detached, she can feel it. Emotional control isn't about freezing her out. It's about holding space for both of you to breathe. So how do you train emotional control? First, you slow down. When tension rises, your only job is to breathe. Not defend, not explain, not attack, just pause. Presence is power. Second, you observe, without judgment. Ask, what am I feeling right now? And what part of me wants to react? Naming the emotion disarms it. Owning it makes you stronger. Third, you lead. You say, let's take a moment. I want to respond with clarity, not heat. That one sentence rewires the entire dynamic. You stop being a reactor and become a leader. Here's the shift. Emotional control isn't about being emotionless. It's about having emotional leadership. When things go sideways, you're not the loudest voice. You're the steadiest presence. That's what earns her respect. That's what makes her feel safe to be soft. Because when your energy is rooted, hers can relax. And this isn't just about romantic connection. Emotional control changes everything. Business, friendships, leadership. People follow the one who stays calm under fire. Women crave the man who can make her feel safe in chaos, not by controlling her, but by mastering himself. You don't win a woman's trust by raising your voice. You earn it by lowering your reactivity. Let her feel your strength in your stillness. Let her feel your care in your calm. That's what makes her lean closer. Not the gifts, not the words, not the promises. Your presence does. So the next time you feel your blood boil, your pride scream, or your fear beg for control, stop. Ask yourself, who do I want to be in this moment? That answer is everything. Because a man who can't master his emotions will always be a slave to them. And a man who can, he becomes unforgettable. Not just in her memory, but in her heart. Thing number 2, purpose. She was drawn to your energy, your hunger, the spark in your eyes when you talked about your dreams. But somewhere along the way, that spark dimmed. And so did her desire. You didn't lose her because you stopped loving her. You lost her because you stopped leading yourself. Here's a truth that most men resist. A woman doesn't want to be the center of your universe. She wants to orbit a man who's already in motion, who's going somewhere. She wants to feel pulled into your gravity, not become your gravity. Purpose is magnetic. It's what separates a man who merely survives from one who builds, creates, leads. The man who lives for comfort will always lose to the man who lives for mission. So what's your mission? Not the fake one. Not, I want to be rich. I mean the one that lights a fire in your gut. The one that keeps you up at night. Not from anxiety, but from obsession. The kind of mission that makes you forget to check your phone, not because you're avoiding her, but because you're in flow. When a woman senses that in you, she softens. She respects you. She may even fall in love without understanding why. It's because your direction gives her security. Your obsession gives her permission to relax. Your movement gives her meaning. But here's the trap. Most men lose their sense of purpose the moment they fall in love. They think love is the reward, the destination. So they stop climbing, stop creating, stop leading, and without realizing it, they turn the woman into their purpose. Big mistake, because the moment you place her above your mission, she starts to pull away, not because she doesn't love you, but because now she feels the weight of carrying your fulfillment, and no woman wants that responsibility. Purpose isn't about ignoring her. It's about including her without needing her to validate who you are. When your purpose is clear, your energy changes. You become harder to manipulate, more focused, more desirable. Not because you're playing games, but because you've stopped living for approval. Let me tell you something that women will never say to your face. The most attractive man is the one who can walk away from everything, except his purpose. He'll grieve a loss, but he won't break. He'll feel heartbreak, but he won't abandon himself. He'll miss her, but he'll never stop moving forward. And that's the kind of man she watches in silence, long after she's gone. Not the one who begged, not the one who compromised, but the one who continued building. If you've ever heard her say, I just don't know what we're doing anymore, what she's really saying is, you stopped showing me where we're going. She doesn't want to lead the relationship. She wants to follow a man who knows his direction. So if you feel lost, directionless, stuck, it's not her job to fix that. That's your wake-up call, to reconnect with the fire that existed long before she showed up. What did you love doing before love distracted you? What dream did you put on pause for her comfort? And what version of yourself is still waiting, buried under validation-seeking and self-abandonment? Your job isn't to chase her. It's to become such a man of vision, of movement, of obsession, that she can't not notice. Purpose doesn't mean you have all the answers. It just means you're searching for something deeper than her approval. So today, ask yourself the one question that matters most. If she were gone tomorrow, would you still know where you're going? Because the man who knows that, he doesn't just attract love, he inspires it. Thing number 3, self-discipline. She'll never say it out loud, But she stopped respecting you the moment you stopped respecting yourself. Not all at once, not with a fight, but slowly, silently. It started with you skipping your workouts, postponing that goal, choosing comfort over progress, until the man she admired became a man she tolerated. You thought you were doing everything right, loving her fully, showing up emotionally, giving her time and attention. But love without self-discipline? It's like a Ferrari with no gas. Looks powerful, goes nowhere. Let me tell you something that stings. She didn't leave because you weren't good to her. She left because you weren't great to yourself. Self-discipline is the invisible currency of attraction. It's the quiet confidence that bleeds into every room you walk into. It's what makes a woman feel safe around you, not just physically, but psychologically. Because discipline tells her, this man can lead, this man has standards, this man won't fall apart under pressure. And yet most men abandon it the moment they fall in love. They confuse emotional intimacy with emotional dependency. They forget the very structure that made them magnetic in the first place. You used to wake up early. You used to train hard. You used to chase a vision. Now, you scroll, you snooze, you survive. And she feels that drop in energy, even if she can't explain it. She doesn't want to mother you. She wants to admire you. And admiration requires momentum. You want to win her back? Don't buy flowers. Buy a journal. Write down your standards. Track your habits. Reclaim your time. The truth is, dopamine is your enemy when it controls you. Every scroll, every binge, every indulgence, it chips away at your edge. So if you want to rebuild, start with the basics. Wake up early. Cut distractions. Move your body. Delay gratification. Recommit to your highest standard. Self-discipline isn't sexy at first, but it's irresistible over time. It says, I don't just love you, I love my future more. And women feel that, because self-discipline creates structure. Structure creates certainty, and certainty makes her feel emotionally safe. It's not about being rigid, it's about being reliable. She doesn't need you to be perfect. She needs to know you won't collapse the moment life tests you. Let me tell you a story. There was once a man, talented, loving, full of potential. He gave everything to his woman. But slowly, he gave up everything else. His goals, his growth, his fire. She stayed for a while. She tried to motivate him. But deep down, she started grieving. Not the relationship, but the death of his edge. And one day, she left. Not for someone richer, not for someone hotter, but for someone sharper. Because when a man loses his direction, his woman loses her desire. If you're in that space now, post-breakup, full of regret, don't wallow. Rebuild. Rebuild your discipline. Rebuild your habits. Rebuild the man you promised yourself you'd become. And when the nights get quiet and you feel that sting of loneliness, let it fuel you. Let it sharpen you. Let it remind you that the most attractive man isn't the one who has it all. It's the one who earns it, again and again. Because here's what no one tells you. Women remember the disciplined man. The one who showed restraint when it was easier to indulge. The one who chose legacy over lust. The one who held himself to a standard even when no one was watching. You don't need revenge. You need routine. You don't need to prove her wrong. You need to prove yourself right. Because when you walk with discipline, you don't chase. You don't beg. You don't break. You become the man she salutes, even if she's no longer yours. Thing number 4, calm presence. She once looked at you and said, I don't see you anymore, even when you're sitting right next to me. That line cuts deep because you were there physically. Maybe every night, on the couch, at the dinner table, in the same room. But your mind, somewhere else, distracted, drifting, absent. You thought showing up was enough, but to her, being around doesn't equal being with. Here's something most men never understand. A A woman can feel your emotional presence or your emotional absence, and that presence, it's everything. It's what makes her soften. It's what makes her trust. It's what makes her feel like she's safe in your world. You can give her diamonds, compliments, attention, but if your soul isn't in the room, none of it matters. Because presence is the rarest currency in today's distracted world. It's the man who listens, not with his ears, but with his eyes. It's the man who puts his phone down, who asks questions and actually hears the answers, who isn't half thinking about work or his ex or what's on TV, who is here. Calm presence isn't loud, it doesn't need to be, it's steady, rooted, a quiet gravity she feels in her bones. And when you lose that, when you become chaotic, rushed, reactive, she doesn't just feel annoyed, she feels alone. That's when the distance begins. That's when the eye contact fades. That's when I love you becomes routine noise instead of connection. Because real presence doesn't speak, it anchors. Now here's the psychological truth. Women are biologically wired to feel into a man's nervous system. They subconsciously read your tension, your micro-reactions, your energy. If you're anxious, she feels it. If you're ungrounded, she mirrors it. But if you're calm, really calm, she breathes easier. Calm presence tells her, I can hold space for both of us. That's what creates devotion, not performance, not money, stillness. So how do you build it? First, eliminate noise, not just external, like your phone or the news, but internal. That means daily solitude, mindful breathing, putting your phone in another room, training your focus like a muscle, not for her, but for you. Second, romanticize the moment. Presence isn't something you find, it's something you create. By paying attention to the details, her tone, her eyes, her silence, by treating ordinary moments like sacred ones. Third, let her feel your stillness without needing to fix her. She doesn't always need solutions. Sometimes she just needs your steady heartbeat, your silence that says, you're safe here. Fourth, protect your peace. Don't let the chaos of the world hijack your nervous system. Filter what you consume, audit your environment. Say no more often, not because you're rude, but because you're responsible for your own clarity. Let me be clear, presence doesn't mean passivity. You don't become a wallflower. You become a mirror, a grounding force she can lean on, not because you're pretending to be calm, but because you are calm. It's not about being perfectly mindful every second. It's about practicing presence as an art form, something that sharpens you as a man. And when you do, she'll start leaning in again. Her voice will soften, her defenses will drop. She'll feel held, not physically but emotionally. Because here's the secret, a man can say nothing. But if his silence makes her feel safer than another man's words, he wins. In a world full of scattered, overstimulated men, be the calm in her chaos. Be the one whose presence speaks louder than any gift. Because when a woman says, I just feel peace around you, she's already yours. Thing number 5, integrity. She didn't leave because you weren't enough. She left because you forgot who you were, not who you were to her, but who you were to yourself. That's the truth most men never face. You think the relationship ended because of some fight, some disagreement, some guy she met. But in reality, she started slipping away the moment you started slipping. You stopped keeping your promises, not to her, but to you. You told yourself you'd hit the gym. You didn't. You said you'd stop drinking. You didn't. You promised to focus, to lead, to build, but you kept distracting, avoiding, escaping. And here's what most men don't realize. Women can feel when a man is lying to himself. They might not call it out. They might not even understand it consciously. But they feel it. In your indecision, your inconsistency, your emotional fog. Because a man without integrity is a man without gravity. She can't trust a man who can't even trust himself. Let me be blunt. If you're not aligned with your own values, she won't align with you. Because integrity is more than morality, it's stability. It tells her, no matter what happens, I know who I am. And I will act from that place, not from fear, not from ego, not from chaos. That's what creates the kind of safety no amount of money can buy. But here's the painful part. Most men only discover this after she's gone. When the house is quiet, when the texts stop, when there's no one left to impress. Just you, your thoughts, and a mirror. That's when the real conversation begins. You start to ask, who was I becoming? Did I abandon myself trying to keep her? Did I shapeshift to avoid conflict, to get approval, to delay the inevitable? If you're there now, in that silence, don't run from it. Sit in it. Let it hurt. Let it expose everything you've been avoiding. Because that's where integrity is rebuilt. Not in front of her, but in front of you. Start small. Wake up when you say you will. Do the hard things you've been avoiding. Say no when something violates your values. Keep your word, even when no one's watching. Let your actions reconnect you to your core. And when that happens, something beautiful shifts. You stop performing. You stop chasing. You become grounded, clear, magnetic. Because here's the twist. Women don't actually want to lead. They lead when they feel like they have to. But when you step back into your integrity, she can finally relax into her femininity. She can soften, not because you demanded it, but because your presence gives her permission. And here's the strategic edge. A man with integrity doesn't react. He responds. He doesn't seek validation. He honors truth. He isn't swayed by temptation because his direction is clear. And in relationships, this creates a paradox. The less you need control, the more power you naturally hold. You want her back? Don't ask for her attention. Earn your own respect first. Because when you walk in alignment, when your thoughts, words, and actions match, you radiate something few men ever do. Wholeness. Let me tell you a story. There was a man who begged for another chance. He wrote the long texts, sent the flowers, made the promises, but nothing worked. Why? Because she didn't need an apology. She needed to see him become someone she could believe again. So he stopped begging. He went silent. He got to work, not on her, but on himself. And slowly, he started showing up differently. Not louder, not flashier, but real, grounded, certain. And whether she came back or not stopped mattering, because he had already come back to himself. That's the power of integrity. It doesn't chase, it doesn't argue, it doesn't collapse, it simply stands. And when a man can stand fully as himself, he doesn't just attract love, he commands it. Thing number 6, masculine energy is more powerful than money. Let me say something that may sting. Most women aren't actually turned on by your money. They're turned on by what they feel in your presence. And here's the truth. A man with money but no masculine energy will always end up being led, tested, and eventually resented. But a man who leads with masculine energy, even if he's not wealthy, creates a gravity she can't ignore. Because money can buy moments, but masculine energy builds momentum. Let me paint the picture. Man A drives a Tesla, wears designer, tips big, vacations often. But when he's with her, he second-guesses everything. He asks for permission constantly. He avoids conflict. He's afraid of rocking the boat. Man B drives a beat-up truck, works long hours, lives simply. But when he speaks, there's certainty. When she challenges him, he holds frame. When life gets messy, he doesn't flinch. He leads. Guess which man she respects more? You already know, because here's the psychological truth. Women don't crave money. They crave polarity, masculine-feminine tension, the dance of direction and surrender. When you lead, she breathes. When you hesitate, she hardens. Masculine energy is not aggression. It's direction. It's not about dominance. It's about clarity. It's not performance. It's presence. A man in his masculine doesn't need to prove anything. He walks into a room and sets the tone. not by force, but by frequency. And that kind of man? He doesn't chase approval. He polarizes. Some people love him, some don't. But women? The right ones? They feel him deeply, even if they don't understand why. That's the difference between attraction and surrender. Money might attract her, but only masculine energy makes her submit voluntarily, not out of fear, but out of admiration. So how do you cultivate that energy? Start by dropping the performance. You don't need to be overly alpha. You need to be congruent, rooted, unapologetically clear in who you are and what you want. You stop explaining your boundaries. You stop over-validating her emotions just to keep the peace. You stop seeking peace through compliance, because the moment you fear losing her, you've already lost yourself. The masculine man doesn't lead with fear. He leads with vision, with truth, with certainty. He's okay being alone, because he's already full. And from that place, he chooses a woman. He doesn't need her. He invites her. That's where devotion begins. Let me say this clearly. Women will test you. They'll challenge your position, your patience, your certainty, sometimes without knowing why. Not because they're cruel, but because they want to feel your edge. They want to know, can I trust this man to remain grounded, even when I'm not? And when they find out you can, they soften. They relax. They submit. Not out of weakness, but because your presence makes them feel strong in their softness. You want to know what turns a woman on long term? Not money, not compliments, not even sex. It's knowing that the man in front of her will not fold under pressure, that he can hold his truth and hers. That's what masculine energy is, a lighthouse, not a lifeboat. She doesn't need you to save her. She needs you to anchor her. Let me say it again. Money is a tool. Masculine energy is power. One gets her attention. The other earns her respect and keeps her desire alive. And when you master both, you don't just date women. You lead them naturally, effortlessly, without games. Because in the end, she doesn't really want your lifestyle. She wants your leadership. She won't say it out loud. She won't tell you, I stopped respecting you because you lost your edge. Or, I left because you stopped being the man who made me feel something deep. But that's exactly what happens. Most men keep chasing love, while slowly becoming less and less of the man who deserves it. So now I'll ask you something sharp. Are you building the kind of man women fight to be with? Or are you becoming the kind of man they use until someone better shows up? Let me paint a picture for you. Two men walk into a room. One has it all: money, charm, a car that could buy a house. But he's insecure. He overcompensates. He doesn't lead. And she knows. She holds the power. The other? He's not rich. But his presence makes people sit up. His focus makes her lean in. And his strength makes her trust without asking. Guess who she gives her body to? Her loyalty. Her soul. You see, women don't fall in love with money. They fall in love with what money can't fake: depth, direction, and control. So stop using cash as your strategy. Start using character as your weapon. Because when you do, you'll never need to chase love again. You'll simply stand still, and she'll come to you. Now it's your turn. Comment below. What part of this video woke you up the most? And if you want more of these raw truths most men are too scared to say out loud, hit subscribe because I won't stop telling them. Until next time.